Hello, I'm Scott Hanna. Welcome to the Arts and Fashion Institute. Today I'll be teaching you how to draw a cartoon dragon. A dragon is a combination of a lot of different animals. We put different things together. I'll give him almost a horse's head or a crocodile head. Then I'll put it onto a snake-like neck. I might give him fins. I might give him spikes. I might give him sharp teeth like a crocodile. I will want to do something like give him an expression because he's a cartoon dragon. So we're going to give him a little bit of a cheerfulness where he might open up his mouth a little bit. We'll show a bit of a tongue. We'll give him a little bit of twinkle in his eye. We'll give him little expressions like that to make him a little bit more lively. So he's not just a static image. We want him to come to life. I'm going to start with simple shapes like a ball shape, a round shape. I'm going to do a flow of the neck. I'm building a tube onto the front of the ball, basically the snout of the dragon. I want to have an idea of where the eyes are going to go. I want the mouth to be open, so I'm going to put an open mouth here. And then I'm going to start fleshing out the neck a little bit. I'm going to be putting a bit more of a neck. I'm going to give him a little bit of wings. I'm going to give him some ear flaps. And frequently dragons have a little bit of horns. And that's how we start building our basic shapes. So I'm starting to build these things out of very simple shapes. I'm going to start giving him some expressions and start darkening the forms. So one of the things I want to pay attention to is where the eyes are. The eyes are very important, and we want to give him relatively, the bigger the eye, the cuter the dragon is. So if we make a cute dragon, we want to give him kind of big eyes, simple shapes. It's also helpful to give him a big nose, or nostrils. So we're going to give him some nice happy nostrils, and then we're going to give him some teeth and maybe a tongue. As you can see here, I'm starting to build the forms. I've got a circle for the basic head shape. I've got a tube coming out the front of the circle and another circle at the end of the nose. I've got an oval for the cheek. I've got a half circle for the eye with an eyebrow ridge over it on both sides. And I'm doing the swoop of the neck. I'm getting the elegance of it. I've got the movement. And you can see he's already got an expression. He's got the open mouth. I'm starting to put in a tongue. And he's starting to build the details. That's how we do it. We always build from very simple shapes, getting more and more complex. Then as we go along, I'm going to start darkening in all the areas that I know I want to keep, and I'll ignore the parts, what we call the guidelines of the circle shapes and the center shapes that I want to ignore. So we'll be inking this next to emphasize the good parts. Now I'm actually going to take a marker pen and I'm going to start filling in or inking the lines so we can start paying attention to what we want to keep. So the first main eye I'm doing as a relatively straight line or a shallow curve on the bottom, a high curve on the other side. On the back eye I'm going to do a much different shape. It's going to be much narrower in width, and it's going to be sticking out a little bit behind the nose. So the nose is going to be coming right around, overlapping the eye. We're going to see a little bit of his cheek in the back, and then we're going to start showing the eyebrow ridge. Then we have to go and add into the nose. So we're going to do the same thing with the nose. We're going to have one nostril is very clear and we'll see it very easily. The other nostril will just see what we call the hood of the nostril. Then I'm going to go right into the line of the mouth. We're going to go really wide and make that mouth go way back to the head, the back of the head. A lot of reptiles have very, very long jaws. So that's one of the things we want to keep with this dragon. We want to keep him having a very long mouth. So the bottom of the jaw is the same way. Then we're going to start adding the top of the head. And I want to give him some horns. So the horns are going to be, again, one horn is actually in front of the head or coming from the front side, and the other horn is hidden behind. I'm going to give him his ear flaps. So these are almost like fish fins that I'm adding onto the side of his head. Gives him some ear shapes. I'm going to highlight his cheek. And then I want to start adding in his neck. So we're doing this long flow of a neck. We're doing the inside line of his neck and the outside of his throat. So we've created 3 separate lines to create the form of his neck. And then we're going to start adding some extra details here. We're going to start adding in some of his scales. So I'm just going to do horizontal lines here to give him some belly scales. That separates his belly from the back of his neck. I'm going to give him some teeth. Because we don't want him to be too fierce, we're going to give him slightly rounded teeth. He's a cute little dragon. But his front teeth are usually a little bit bigger than his back teeth. And I'm going to give him a little bit of a tongue too. So we're going to actually have his tongue sticking out from between his teeth like that. And we now have the large part of the dragon pieces all put together. Now I'm going to be a little bit cute. We're going to give him a little bit of bat wings here. So you can see how I'm sticking along with the basic shapes that I started with, but I'm adding some extra details. So now we have to flesh it out a little bit. So we want to add some extra details. I'm going to add a little bit of scales on the back of his head. And I want to give him a little bit of actual kind of like snake scales on his neck. So we're going to do these scallop shapes. And they overlap. So all the scales actually stagger and go underneath each other. So we do all these little loop shapes, but we make sure they connect. So the center of the bottom of one is the beginning of the arc of the next. So it always goes to the center of the loop above. And we can make these slightly different sizes. We can actually make them bigger as they go farther away from the head, more into the body. And you can see how adding those scales gives it a lot of detail and texture, makes them look very dragon-esque. We can do some similar things that we can actually add scales around his mouth. And that makes him look like very reptilian, almost like a dinosaur. And I might want to give him some more scales on his forehead too. I don't usually put a lot of scales on the face because the face is kind of open. We leave that for color or basic shapes, but we can give him occasional, say, spots and details like that. Now you notice I actually filled in black in the nostril and in the eyes. We can actually add other areas of black. Like it's a good idea to put some darks into the mouth. And we can put even some shadows in certain areas. What I mean by shadows is we can put some dark areas in certain places where there's a ridge. So this is a shadow over the eye, like an eyebrow. We can put some extra emphasis on the smile. We can even put some shadows under the fin. We can even put some shadows under his chin to help separate him a little bit from the neck. And now I can start adding some extra textural bits. I can actually say I want to add some detail to the tongue. I can add detail to the fins. So I'm doing all these quick, simple lines to show extra texture and detail and shading all at the same time. It's very similar to doing the scales, and I can do it in all kinds of different directions. So on the horns, I'm going to actually do it lengthwise, going upward on the horn. And on the fin, I actually did it horizontally. So you can see we have a very happy little dragon here, and I can actually do something, if I want to, I can actually say, I like doing girl dragons. So I'm actually going to give this dragon a little bit of eyelashes. And now I have the bulk of the dragon all done. I can actually add a little bit more shadows in the wings. Very similar to the fins of his ears. And there you have a very happy little cheerful dragon.